So at that time, I'm telling you, a lot of Canadian artists were great. They were spitting lyrics. They had rhymes and stuff like that, but we're all scared to put records out because we didn't know how to do it.
And the Canadian music industry had no support for you whatsoever. Canadian record labels
the whole...
turned down Deborah Cox, for God's sake. Like they had no, there was no support. The Junos had no support. The CBC had no support for like it wasn't just that these artists didn't believe in themselves.
It had to evolve, yes. But there wasn't, whether it was where to go to get your record pressed, getting a proper engineer, there was a few people who understood. Even the record labels at the time, they really didn't have people there who were qualified to know the streets. I remember Quality Records was maybe the first record label to try releasing rap music, and it was more like a compilation album experiment when they put the Fat Boys and Houdini on their Kings of Rap album. And it was such an innocent time that they couldn't find any rappers in the whole city. So guess what? They called a guy on the radio, Ron Nelson, said, look, we need some guys to rap at some of the malls around Toronto, and it's to promote this King of Rap album. Can you find us any rappers? So me and Maestro and another guy, we basically got hired by Quality Records to go to the malls and rap there on the sidewalk as people are coming in hoping that they would buy a copy of this Kings of Rap album. And all I remember was white people seeing rap for the first time in their lives. They'd heard about it. They knew Rapper's Delight, but the fascination from something so simple, they'd never seen it before. Canadian record labels had never touched rap music at the time.
Oh, well, and they didn't. They continue. I'll just say it again. Like they continued not to. They continued not to.
It took a while, right?
And I'll say it again that the story of these artists maybe not believing themselves was coupled with the fact that there was not an industry given to them so that they could believe in themselves. There was not an industry that wanted them. There was not an industry that supported them in this country, and they had to go to the States.
Well, the talent was there, and yes, we didn't understand the culture enough. So if he didn't go to the States, I mean, even Maestro went to the States and had to humble himself and work as a security guard just to get out of Canada. And I would say most of the artists, even up until the 90s, that were rap artists that were signed in Canada, were signed by U.S. labels. We still didn't have the balls to recognize the talent and believing in ourselves enough to say, I'm going to sign these guys.
And also it was institutional racism. Also it was these labels.
That can go in that's a whole different interview, yes.
But that is also what
it's one of the undertones and undercurrents, absolutely.
Let's talk about your album.
Sure.
Putting out this album, I know it's something you wanted to do for a long time. What made you want to, why now?
Well, actually, I didn't want to do an album for a long time. I'd never thought of putting out an album, but the pandemic came and I had some free time and I started playing with this program called FL Studio. And then I realized, hey, I used to be an engineer in a recording studio in one of the first hip hop studios. And I started having so much fun that one day it came to me, I should make a song. And then that changed because I started making many songs. And then I'm like, hey, I can make an album. And at that point, I was really trying to find myself. I was trying to do something that would make me kind of make the most out of this time during the pandemic, because a lot of people shifted their whole mindset during that period of time, including myself. So with all the isolation and stuff, I was able just to get into a groove and kind of almost by fluke started believing that, I could actually make an album. So I tell that to people, oh yeah, who's going to be rapping on it? So, no, I'm going to be rapping on it. You? Yeah, okay, cool. So people are waiting because they don't really see it. They don't really see, you see me, you don't see a rap artist. So the story is, I'm 60 years old. Try and think of how many rappers you have in your collection that are 60. Not many. People aren't supposed to rap at my age.
Well, let me talk about that, because I got to talk to Black Thought recently, Black Thought of the Roots, and I asked him this question, and I want to ask you as well, and we'll talk about some of the songs in a second.
Sure.
But do you think that enough space is being made in hip hop catering to an older hip hop audience?
No. I think it's a great opportunity for me and anybody else who wants to do such that. Hip hop, as I said, it's really young people's music. So it's going to be an experiment to find out if there really is a market. But now it's a global market. There has to be a market. You could put out a lousy record. There's guaranteed a few people will like it, you know? So when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a rap album. But lyrically, I can't write like these young people. I can't say anything that they say almost, because I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not 19. I'm not 18, 17. Like, I'm 60. The world is different for me than it is for them. And I don't think I should ever want to be like anybody else anyway, other than being myself. So as a result, I kind of play with this, but I say to people, you know what? I'm going to be one of the only rappers catering to that 50 and over market. Rappers haven't turned old yet. We haven't seen that. Rap is still relatively new. So we haven't seen the rapper in the wheelchair or the rappers with the gray hair and the beards and stuff like that. But guess what? The audience that has grown up with rap now, they are older. And when I go to my barber, for example, you know, he plays strictly old school. One of the things that I realize is that no one has tried to cater to that. And excuse my ignorance, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, the oldest rapper that's still active is Chuck D from Public Enemy, 62. I don't know who's older than that. I can't find another Canadian rapper who is 60 years old and still trying to put out music right now. So I'm going against the odds because I don't feel my age. Hip hop has given me this youthfulness where I've got a lot of energy in me. I've got 4 decades of contribution to this industry that's qualified me to have something to say that might appeal to a market that is non-youth and maybe a little more grown up, because guess what? When you grow up, you start caring about other things. You watch more news, you know, you watch more CNN and more CP24, and you listen to more CBC, for example. You know, you want a little more intellectual rigor, right? So you don't want to hear the same crap over and over again, because that's their identity. That's their world. You can't take it from them. You can say, yo, your music's not as good as my music from the old school, but you have no right to say that because it's subjective, right? This is their life.
But he made the point that the way that rock audiences and white audiences venerate bands like the Eagles, and the Eagles can still play to, you know, 30,000, 40,000 people, and Pink Floyd can still play to 30,000, 4,000 people, and Led Zeppelin can still play to 30, if they got back together, would play to 30,000, 40,000 people per venue. He said to me, he said, like, I don't see that in hip hop. I don't see the same veneration for older, like the same, you know what I'm saying? Right? You know?
It's like playing in Las Vegas, and if you build you know why he's saying that though? I kind of get why he's saying that, but we don't know. Nobody knows the answer yet, because like I said, we haven't seen hip hop get old. We don't know if there's a loyalty from the fan base and the music buying base that's gonna want to go and see those artists in their older age when they are more seasoned, right? They may not have the same skills as before. They may not. It's not like making you know, dance music or pop music where, you know, you could kind of regenerate the same kind of poppy flavor years and years down the line. Hip hop is more...
It's physical.
It's physical. It's political. You know what I mean? It's a measurement of, or a sign of the time that you live in. But I think that's an interesting question, because I'm waiting to see what happens as well when these artists get older and they look around and they see all these other genres making money because they can bring back that old school now. Yeah, remember when you were 20, this was the music of your life? Well, what's going to happen to us when we turn 60 and we want the music of our lives? So whatever you were listening to between the age of 12 to age 18, that's probably the music of your life. Those are the artists that you're going to see. Are they going to be around still with the ability to kick rhymes and jump around on stage and do all that cardiovascular stuff? We don't know yet. They may not be in that good shape at that time. You know?
You're looking pretty good shape to me.